Final speaker is Bob Hostetler. Bob is with ST Genetics. Bob asked me to keep his introduction short. I'm not doing this because I'm trying to cut time. Bob is a graduate student. I've learned how to say this now. The Ohio State University. OH. It's not too many of you here. Bob spent almost 5 years with Cargill as a captain and heifer specialist. Bob is currently with ST Genetics as Director of Nutrition. So everybody welcome Bob.
So you go 3 or 4 generations, what happens? And we know for sure that there is a pretty high correlation between what happens as a growing heifer and what happens as lactating. So I'm glad I'm not an academic because I'd have to come up with but here at the robot barn, we just started, and it's a labeling system, Astronaut 5. I don't really know what that means, but yeah, they're doing great. As I talked to the guys today, that their feed consumption actually is going up. Our average number of milking is now about 3. These girls really like it. As an aside, then the Lely people told us that if calves were raised on an auto feeder, they would take to these easier. Because in their youth, they got used to sticking their heads in there, right? And that is exactly what we found. So that's an unintended consequence, but we're okay with it. So what is a high-performance heifer? We've asked that before, right? What is a high-performance heifer? Longevity, of course that's important. High feed capacity. I mean, maybe I can get 140 pounds of milk, but if she's eating 72 pounds of dry matter, is she profitable, right? High milk production, feed efficient, still alive, right? Isn't that where we started this morning, Bob? Or this afternoon. So just exactly what is it? Now, one of the things that I get to do sometimes is I get to be a guest instructor at Ohio State in a couple of different classes. And so in one of those, and I'm supposed to talk about him, just imagine, I spent my whole life with calves and heifers. So I want responses. I don't want you to sit there. What's the top 3 costs to a dairy farm? Feed? Replacement is second, labor is third. And if you think about our replacements, then an awful lot of that is feed anyway. So I'm going to challenge you. You cannot call a heifer a good heifer if she is not feed efficient. Can't do it. The farmers will not stay in business if they're not feed efficient. Anybody want to argue? But I have never, ever had a class at Ohio State, there's one of them right over there, that got these right, because it's pounded into us that it's feed and labor. You know, this is one of the places that we have to get better at in order to have really good animals. So here, this is from Penn State. I could have used Cornell, but you know, we always put them. So I went to Penn State, and here is what it takes to get in the milking herd. That is a huge variation. Cost per pound of gain, that's a huge variation. Feed conversion, that's a huge variation. And I'm not sure I want this animal that only costs that. Not at all. But when I see that kind of variation, what that means is that there's opportunity. So is the opportunity genetic? Yes, of course. Is the opportunity epigenetic? Yes, of course. How in the world did we get one flush sister that ate 40% less and still grew at the same rate? How does that happen? Well, I'm not sure. However, there's some things that I think I can be pretty sure of as the feed guy out there. I already told you. So after 7,000 animals, then we can say that this is absolutely true. Eco-feed is more heritable than milk yield, fat percentage, protein yield, or protein percentage. More heritable. We know that for sure. Eco-feed essentially is we just take what they eat and then what they gain and make the correlation over usually 90 to 110 days. That's all we do. It's real simple. And so if it's that heritable, then that is where we get the 5 to 7% every generation. And so we hear about that stuff from academics and so on, and they need to be doing that work. But the numbers of animals that we have, we are absolutely convinced of that. But we have to learn what's the difference between those two efforts, those flush systems? So this is something that really caught my attention because a year ago this time that we opened barn 3 and all the cavities that happened in there, and we did do protocols. And so this is the total calves. These are the ones that have total protein measured on them, and that's a lot of animals, right? And total calves with total protein of 5.5 or under. In other words, your facet transfer is only 3.73. Usually when I say that, people say they don't believe me. What do you guys think, Bob? Think we're good?
Yeah, I've been on a dairy where it's been,
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. So we have made ours, success has to be 6 or above. Yeah. And we're getting that done. But there's something else to it. This is the protocol. And a year ago, then there was one of our employees that no longer works for us that he didn't seem to care if he got colostrum into it or not. But most of the time, it's about 40 minutes now that we get colostrum into. Does that make a difference? Well, when you put that together with every cow is milked within an hour of giving birth, then yeah, that's how you get those numbers. And these are the actual numbers. Unfortunately, we don't have data, good data beyond this. But the thing that really caught my eye when I looked at these is this right here, that gap. 6.51, and we went up to 6.8 in 1 month. Any guesses as to how that happened? What's that? Unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, that's not it, I don't think. We decided right here that I'd been at ABSA and I heard the choline presentation and I bought into it. And we know that this is really real because since the 1st of September, our death loss has increased by 40% and treatments for respiratory are down 72%. That's real numbers. Does that matter? You bet it does. That matters like crazy. And so, you guys have seen this before, right? These gators hanging out and stuff. So this is what really caught my attention, and I'm not going to regurgitate all the stuff here, but this is the slide that matters. This is the slide that matters. That is at least a part of what's going on. We know that the apparent effect of absorption here is really good compared to what we used to have. And so some of that is getting the cow milk on time, some of that is getting the calf fed on time, and another part of it is the programming that happens in the gut of that calf from what you feed mom for the last 3 weeks. So is this a genetic outcome? Well, there had to be the potential, right? Had to be genetic potential, but it couldn't be expressed if we didn't have enough choline. Are there other things like that? Why do we only have parent efficiency of absorption at best? The best I've ever seen is 41. Why is that? Well, there's got to be reasons for that. Can we solve that? Well, I think we have to. We have to. So the choline stuff is good stuff, right? I have my rep here today. Greta is over there, and for sure, Reassure is something we believe in. It will be in there forever. And no doubt about it, it's one of the cheapest things we do when we look at the number of treatments on the calves, because that certainly has been a part of it. So what is a high-performance effort? A profitable effort. In order to be profitable, if she isn't be efficient, she is not profitable. She is not a good effort. Question? Yes, sir.
So you wait 30 days before you put them on feed, or why so long?
Why do we wait so long to put them into the auto feeder barn? Poor management. Good question. Yes?
What's the threshold for feed efficiency? What's the threshold that you consider for a good feed efficiency for a heifer?
We don't know that for sure. At this point, we are measuring it according to their cohorts. And so we look at see what the average intake is, and then what the average daily gain is. And those that are at the lower right, that those are the ones that we flush, and the others we do not. They are reciprocal. That's correct. It is relative at this point, because we didn't know how to make it otherwise. Good question. Thank you.
Given the negative image that the dairy industry or the ruminant animal has with regard to environmental pollution. Are your feed efficiency improvements enough to be a positive message that we can give out, or have you actually measured any methane production from some of your animals?
We're not doing methane at all. We know that if we are feeding, for example, 40% less feed for the same result, that we are producing less methane. So we haven't gone to those methane collectors or anything like that. We're just doing lots and lots of. So can we sell this to the public? We don't know. We know that large producers in places like New Zealand and so on are buying into this. We increased our sales by almost 100% last year, and this is a significant part of it.
And those animals would be going into intensive units or going to extensive units in New Zealand?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
Okay. CDCB has feed efficiency now. It hasn't been released, but there's still not as many cows, almost 6,000 cows, and they're continuing on that. But if I recall correctly, the data they had at that point, because of the limited number of animals, the reliability of the information was quite low, was the 20%. But I don't remember whether they showed any genetic relations between feed efficiency and other traits. Can you comment if you have those data, and can you tell us just a little bit, whatever you can release, is it positive or negative genetic correlation with milk yield, component yield, or health traits?
Positive to all the above from our own data, and we aren't publishing that data, and I'm not actually one of the researchers. I get to speak with them once in a while for ideas. But as far as actually crunching the numbers and what they really mean, that's not mine. I'm sorry.
Other questions for Bob?
Can you differentiate also in different feeding systems? So, for instance, you're feeding lots of rockets, because if you're going for more efficient cows, you are going for more concentrating, producing cows?
For most of the rations that I'm doing, then for the long breds, it's about 88% roughage, and for those that are on the trial, then it's about 72% roughage. And so then for the cows, we are not trying to make huge. My job is to help the researchers be able to see genetic difference. So I'm not trying to get the biggest peaks that we can. And so as we get into the robot barn and things like that, we're running pretty conservative. For example, the feed that goes through the robot is pretty well on start, because we want to make sure nothing gets added out of it. And so for our Holsteins, we are running without adding any C16 fats or anything. We run a 4.2 to a 4.3 butter fat all the time. And so is that a part of efficiency? I think so. It's what we're getting paid for it.
Thank Bob. So two things from my perspective. One is to thank everyone tremendously for being here. We very, very much appreciate your attendance. Thank you for coming back after the break. Sometimes we lose those folks, but we appreciate that greatly. We hope that you've learned something today. I'm going to toss out one last little thing, because Scott Sorrell will kill me if I don't. And that is, we have these bottles of choline out on the table. And this is not a commercial for Balchem, actually. It's actually just a tremendous kind of a piece of information for you. So many people probably have no idea, but the USDA has created a requirement for choline for humans at various stages. It's been a requirement for infant formulas for a number of years, primarily for the relationship to development of the neural system in the babies. But it's also been identified as being positive for people for physical fitness, for recovery type things. One of the more fascinating things that I've read on it at least is that women who take an adequate amount of choline during the first and second trimesters of birth, they've actually followed their children out to age 7. They actually, between the first and second trimester and when they turned age 7, and they did mental acuity tests on them and actually found that there is a positive correlation, quite possibly some of this epigenetic effects, but there was a definite correlation to intellect and the ability to do certain kinds of mental activities. So I take it for a totally different reason. I take it because I just really don't want to go senile any faster than I have to. And there's some days when I forget what time zone I'm in. Thank you for reminding me, Jose. It makes me think that maybe I am starting to lose it a little bit. So anyway, that is just, if you're not taking it, I would strongly encourage you to. I don't care whose brand you buy, where you get it from. It's not my commercial, but there certainly are a tremendous number of benefits to it in humans. And I think we're starting to see that there are tremendous potential benefits for it in other species as well. And we're quite happy to think that there's some clear benefits to cows and to lactating dairy cattle. So I will shut up. The pool, which I'm not sure exactly from where I'm standing right now, that way, that is where we are having the barbecue and the cold beverages. We strongly encourage you to join us. Visit with us, visit with our speakers. I'm sure they'd be more than happy to answer your questions in an environment where you don't have to stand up in front of the crowd. And on that, I think Mr. Sorrell would like to do the drawing for the Bonnie Moore print. You might have to talk at this for a couple of seconds, but it'll be short.
Thanks, Glenn. Our drawing today is for a Bonnie Moore print. Now, if you're not familiar with Bonnie Moore, she's a relatively famous artist from Minnesota, and she's famous for painting dairy cattle and farm scenes. And if you've seen dairy cattle in many of the magazines like Ford's Dairyman, Progressive Dairyman, those kinds, and if you've seen artwork on their covers, more often than not, it's Bonnie Moore's. This particular one is called The Birth of an Industry. And Balchem commissioned Bonnie to paint this original piece of artwork about 4 years ago as part of our Real Faces of Dairy celebration. This is number, I think it was 476. It's signed, numbered by Bonnie. The Real Faces of Dairy celebration was initially put together to honor and celebrate the American dairy farmer. And it still lives on our Facebook page. So we have a Facebook page called Real Faces of Dairy, and it's got about 70,000 followers. People have posted about 20,000 pictures. They're amazing pictures. I'd encourage you to go out there and kind of share in that experience. Out here in the hall, if you saw during the break, we've got that big light box with that picture. It's actually this picture. And we had recreated it with pixels, and each pixel was a picture. All of those were taken from our Facebook page. That dairy farmers and dairy families actually posted those to our Facebook page. So it's been a lot of fun. With that, I'm going to let this lovely young lady choose the winner. Before I do that, I was going to tell you guys one thing. We gave you calendars out there, Real Faces of Dairy calendars, and I'd like to draw your attention to the month of May. Glenn Ains, our Master of Ceremonies today, is Mr. May, so he's on there. So he likes to be known as Mr. May. All right. And the winner is Sarah Bennett. We'll see you out the pool.
Just remember that tomorrow we'll start at 8:15 here, okay?